All right, guys. Well, here we are. It's another episode of Friend Fridays, a concept I had a long time ago. I don't know. It's actually like 6 months ago. I don't know how long. I think it was like right when COVID started. And I was going to do Friend Fridays, and I was going to have people that I know in real life come on as guests, but I was also going to have people do submissions. And I still have that going on. I've been getting a ton of submissions. I got a guy working for me right now. He catalogs them, he uploads them unlisted on YouTube, and then we put them on Patreon and people vote for it. I bet a lot of you are like, who gives a fuck? Like, why don't you talk to your guest? Everyone always criticizes me because I talk and I don't let it's just me talking with someone looking at me with the split screen. And I guess that's not cool. So here's Riggy Marz. I've known him since I was 15. I came across him. Now, we've done another interview before, and I was really stoned last time we did it. I'm actually really stoned again. So I don't remember anything I said the first time. So I hope that I'm not repetitive. I tend to be a repetitive person, so I apologize in advance. But anyway, I met him when I was 15. That was the period where I'd just been expelled from Santa Barbara High School. And then my parents sent me to this like boarding school that was across the street from Michael Jackson's house. How fucking sketchy is that? Actually, I don't know. We never even saw Michael. We would just see like balloon characters like levitating from his place. I'm like, don't look. The last kid that made eye contact with the inflated balloon fucking got abducted by Michael. I'm like, fuck. I was there a week. And then they try to make me take group showers with dudes. And back then I was really homophobic. I'm not now. I've done so many group showers in my life now that I'm like, I feel more comfortable with a group of people than just by myself. Sometimes I just invite the neighbors over. I'm like, fuck it, let's shower. Anyway, he came to visit that boarding school because his parents were going to send him there. And I don't really remember that, but what happened at that point? Let's try to do some back and forth.
So like I seen you skateboarding, and I went up to you because like I had already been getting like touched by these dudes, and like I was like, this place is fucking weird, dude. I'd never been touched by a man like that before, or a boy, whatever.
It was an everyday thing there.
It was an everyday occurrence, and I was there for a weekend, so it was a long weekend, bro. But I seen you skateboarding, and I was like, oh, he looks cool, and I was like, what up, bro? Is this place tight? And you're like, no, it's fucking whack. Do not come here. And that just stuck with me, dude. And then, I think a group shower thing happened later that night with like all of us.
When you were touring, you were just coming for a tour and they made you group shower. Place was weird as fuck. I knew it. I was onto them and I was over it. I left. And at that place, it's called Midland. They make you chop firewood to like feed the water heater. Like how barbaric, and it cost a lot of money too. People's parents spend a lot of money to have their kids go chop wood to fuel the water furnace or whatever.
That shit was like $50,000 a year, bro.
I made it like a week, and then I tried to run away on a bike, and then they, it was like a mutual expulsion at that point. They like brought me in. They're like, why would you leave? And I was like, dude, are you serious? I'm 15. You make me take group showers with guys. And that was after a formal dinner where my first night there, I'm like wearing a suit. You have to wear a suit. It's like a prep school. And it's like they make announcements, and some guy stood up. He was a senior, and he's like, I am gay. And everybody started clapping. And I was like, I was 15. I was much more ignorant then. I was like, okay, I've never heard anyone say that before. It was the first time I'd ever heard anyone say that. And then like it started this wave of like other gay dudes coming out. It's like, I'm gay too. And it's like some unsuspecting Asian kid that like never taught. He's like a foreign exchange dude. It's like, me too. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? It was like a whole group of these dudes coming out. And then after that, so they come out, right? And I brought weed with me, and I brought a bunch of acid. I wasn't on acid, but I was super stoned and awkward. I hated weed back then, but I was such a dope fiend, I'd smoke it anyway. And I remember being in my head about it. And then after that, they're like, "Are you gonna shower?" And I was like, "Fuck no, I'm not gonna shower." It was like the same group of people. It was like a wolf pack, and I was like, "You know what? I'm cool." Then all the girls at this place made fun of me. Like, "Yeah, that guy doesn't shower. I heard he's on bud," you know. And I was like, "I am." And so I ended up running away on a bike. Fast forward,
Damn.
you were friends with what was that girl's name? Nico. Nicole?
Yeah, we were in rehab together in like 2011 or 12. So I think you were in prison at the time.
I was in prison in 2011 and 2012. Nico was a girl that I believe, like, I think I sold heroin to her and her boyfriend. I think that's how I knew her. But then when I came out in 2000, when I got out of prison, not when I came out, when I got out of prison, she was sober and I was I've been sober a year at that point. And so we started hanging out. And she told me that she'd met you in rehab. And I think you also met, don't say her name because nobody knows her real name, but you know a girl that has the same name as my girl. And she was there the day that I stabbed the skinhead. And I made that the first chapter of Wasting Talent. You knew her too, right?
Yeah, I fucked her.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
sounds like the same person that I'm talking about.
We've been Eskimo brothers for a long time, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't though. We just talked. Get motels and I'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I know everyone thinks I'm just some pervert. I just want to talk." No, we fucked a bunch. When she was pregnant too, it was so trashy. She was like 8 months pregnant with someone else's kid. And my mom was like, "Are you having sex with this pregnant girl?" And I was like, "No. Rent us Chucky movies," and she would. So my mom would get us Chucky movies, and then me and her. And she was like, yeah, she was doing drugs. I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. But anyway, then let's see. So then in 2015, I was in the middle of the relapse. So if you're gonna go off chronology, like based on stories that I've done, this was the relapse period. I'd run away from a rehab in Thousand Oaks, even though it was like my PO was like, "If you leave, you're going to prison." And then some girls like, "I like you," and I was like, "I like you too." And she's like, "Let's leave." I was like, "I'll go to prison." She's like, "Who cares?" I was like, "Oh my god, you care about me." And then we left, and she's like, "I'm going home." I was like, "What?" Like, I left, I risked prison, I knew I was going back, and I ended up calling my PO, and he gave me one more chance. And then he didn't send me, I found a place in Pasadena called Bishop
Gooden.
What's it called?
Bishop Gooden.
Oh yeah, and it was like an all male. I don't even know what the fuck that. I think it was a sober living, but it had like it had, what's it called? IOP? Is that what intensive outpatient program? And so you'd live at this sober living. And then in the day, you had to get up at like 8 or 9 in the morning and go to classes group therapy all day. And I never went. And every single night that I was there, I was getting hammered and anything I could do that wouldn't come up on a drug test. And at that point, I think I did a Facebook post and said that I was in Pasadena. Do I have any friends there? And you DM me and you're like, "I do meth. You remember me? I do meth, and I met you when you were 15. I was like, "Oh, cool. I do meth too. Let's do this." And so we started hanging out, and I did do meth with you then, but for the most part, I was doing, I believe, GHB and acid a lot. I know we did a lot of GHB back then, which I didn't even really do. I'd done it, I think, once before I met you, but then it was like all the time. And I love that stuff. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it used to be a supplement that they sell at GNC. And what it does is it puts your body into REM sleep. So when you go into REM sleep, that's when protein synthesis occurs. That's when your muscles rebuild. That's when there's growth. When you're working out, you need REM sleep. REM sleep is just as important as your diet. And it's hard to get, unadulterated sleep like that. So they used to sell this supplement called GHB. And of course, I don't know. So I think people started like raping women with it. I don't know who thought of that. They're like, "Whoa, this is relaxing. I'm going to give this in excess to someone in their drink," and it sucks. Like they started raping women with it. It became a very popular date rape drug, but it was also, and there's a lot of drugs like this. If you've ever been to rehab or you've been to prison or jail, there's so many different weird psychotropic drugs and just all sorts of different kinds of drugs where if you fight sleep, you feel inebriated or intoxicated on something. And GHB is one of those things. Rufinol is the same. Like I've done a roofies recreationally, and I've done Quaaludes. And when Quaalude, when you take one, it really makes you want to sleep. It's a barbiturate. It's like a benzo on steroids. But if you fight going to sleep, then you feel the effects of it. GHB is the same way. So you get drunk off it. And if you mix if you have 1 or 2 beers with GHB, it gets you stumbling drunk. And I'm one of those people where I can drink like a fish, and I'm one of those people where you cannot tell the difference between me drunk or sober. I'm pretty much the exact same person. It's very difficult to tell when I'm drinking. And GHB, I remember we would get kicked out of bars all the time for being too belligerent on that shit. It was like in Fear and Loathing when they huffed the ether and like you walk and like waddle around and it's just obvious. I'm on something, and they're like, get out of here. We got in fist fights and shit at bars. Like we were just straight delinquents in Pasadena, running around with all the hood rats there at the time. And
dude,
then
could you imagine if we had a bottle of that shit at the boarding school?
Yeah.
Fucking wild, bro.
And the greatest part about G is that, don't ever do it. It destroys lives. But GHB, the best part about it, what I used to love about it, is you get belligerently fucking wasted on it. And then the next day, you feel better than if you didn't do it. That's so hard to quit. You're like, okay, I'm going to get super fucked up and then I'm going to feel better than I would if I hadn't been super fucked up. It's really hard to not, to stop doing it. And you know what? GHB is physically addicting. I've seen people come off of it in rehabs, and it's like a serious nightmarish hallucinatory delirium tremens like it would be with a serious alcohol habit, which I've had DTs a few times in my life, and they're no fucking punk. But anyway, we did that a bunch. I don't remember how that ended. Oh yeah, that's when that's that girl that I left rehab for was living in San Diego with a transvestite guy that like he looked like Mrs. Doubtfire, and he's like, yeah, I do meth. I was like, okay, can I live here? He's like, Avi. And so I lived with this guy, and it was a bad situation. He'd be like playing Russian roulette with a revolver, like in a skirt. And I was like, dude, I swear to God. And the craziest part about all of that is I had a warrant. The feds were looking for me. I like just stopped checking into federal probation at the time. So they were looking for me. No, I wasn't like, but I was like staying in, Mrs. Doubtfire's lair or whatever. And what the fuck was that? Lighter. And and then the girl I was with ended up jumping. She took a swan dive out of my homeboy's balcony, like off this balcony, like just took a straight swan dive. And me and my friend were like, fuck, he had like pounds of meth. He had like guns at the house. I was like, dude, my girlfriend just took a swan dive off your balcony. He's like, you're such a bust. Every time you come over, it's some shit like this. I'm like, dude, it's never been anything this severe, And so we left. And then I came up with the brilliant idea to go around Orange County and rob drug dealers off Craigslist that sell drugs. Because back in that time, I don't know. I don't want to say it out loud, but there was a way where you could get you could get meth and heroin off Craigslist. I mean, to this day, pretty sure that it's still cracking like that.
Oh, super easy, dude.
Yeah, and I would go there with a pellet gun that I had stolen, and I went and I would meet these Orange County kids that were just like clean cut. They're like driving their little Cadillacs and shit, all like cleaned up, preppy looking, and I just be like, yeah, let me get $3,000. We just met off Craigslist. You can trust me. And then I'd put the gun in their face and I'd steal it. And I ended up going into the psych ward with the heroin and syringes in my asshole to go visit my crazy girlfriend at the time. And you know what? That worked getting me out of my federal warrant because of HIPAA laws, because of confidentiality laws. They can't ask when you were admitted. They can only ask when you were discharged. So I was like, what do you mean? I'm fucking nuts. I've been here. They've been evaluating me for 4 months. I haven't been on a run living in a transvestite's house in San Diego. That's fucking preposterous, you know? And anyway, so then what happened? Then I married a fan that I met for a week, and we reconnected at that point again. I think okay, so what do you remember about that? Let's have you interact more. I'm sorry, I know people talk shit that I talk.
I remember you had like got out the psych ward or whatever, and you sent me. I was like, bro, like, where are you? I'm worried about you. And that's when you sent me the infamous selfie of you in the red Trader Joe's shirt. And I was like, bro, come back to Dina, dog. Like, I got a liter of GHB. Like, let's fucking go, you know? And at that point, I had a girlfriend. And I'm like, yo, this is my girlfriend. I'm not going to say her name. You know her very well. And you were like, dude, this chick wrote me a fan letter. And, bro, she's bad. Like, check out this photo of her. I was like, oh, word. And you're like, I think I'm going to fly her out here. And I was like, you absolutely should. You know what I mean? And, yeah, man, she flew out from, what was it, Arizona or Colorado or whatever. And
Colorado. Yeah, I just gotten $6,000. I just sold I was like homeless at that point, like couch surfing.
Yeah, you'd been kicked out of Bishop Gooden already because you let me crash there. And the manager, I was like just sprawled out on the floor.
Oh yeah, I used to sneak him over. I used to sneak like tweaker girls in there. There'd be like girls running around in my boxers, and like the manager would be like, "Hey, Ryan," and I'd be like, "What?" I was like, "I'm sober," and I'd be so twacked out. Like I'd leave this guy that was living there had this box of this like super hardcore like German porn. It was like all gang bang scenes and shit, and I'd be all twacked out and like I'd lock myself in the bathroom with it, and they'd, Ryan, are you looking at porn in there? I'd be like, no. And you know, and they were like totally on to me. Like I was never there. How many nights did we go out and party? All
every
the time,
night, bro.
Yeah.
Every night. So, dude, I remember the manager came and you were asleep, and fucking, I was like the front door to you had like your own apartment there, bro. And he opens the door and he sees me like eating top ramen packets in the kitchen and shit. And he's like, who the fuck's this homeless kid, you know? And I was like, he's like, where's Ryan? I was like, he's asleep. He's like, who the fuck are you? I was like, I'm Steve.
That place was wide open, man. That was like a string of sober livings where like I just straight ran it, you know, like I'd get there and I'd be like, you know what, like because like, you know, all the prison time I've become such a swindling convict, and like I don't even mean to be like that, but it's just like wherever I go I just like try to take charge. I'm like, all right, it's gonna work like this now. That's a bad trait that I picked up in there. But after that point, so I got $6,000. I sold the French rights to my book. And like at the time, $6,000 was like winning the lottery for me. I blew it in one fucking week with this girl. One time during that time, I remember I missed 4 flights to Denver. And I think that cost me like $1,800 or some crazy amount. I just kept missing the flights, or I'd be too fucked up to fly. And like the air marshals would come like escort me. They'd be like, sir, I'm like, fuck. And I finally made it. And then, so I think we came back to LA, and then it's hazy when you came back. Like, what do you remember from that point on? I remember I was really drinking heavy back then.
Yeah, so I was like living in Highland Park at the time at that trap house, and fucking you hit me up and you're like, and we were even before, like, we were hanging out there all the time. So you came to pick me up, and she was in the car with you, and you're like, "Hey, bro, this is so and so."
My
And I was
wife.
like, "Yeah." You're like,
Did I say that?
yeah. I think you referred to her as your wife. You're like,
God,
"It's my fiance,
scumbag.
bro." And I was like,
Fiance.
"Like, how long have you known her?" You're like, "About like 48 hours, dude. We're gonna get married." And I was like, that's a great idea, bro." And then you had a bunch of money left over to buy some coke, and we got some coke, and then you ditched me at the park because she didn't want me around.
Oh yeah, that was before we were married. That was like one of the first trips. I just had like coconut pulp come out of my mouth. I remember when she was coming out, because the way I met her, she sent me a fan letter, like, and it went to Facebook, like those messages from like weirdos that you don't know. And I'm not saying everybody, I appreciate people that send me love and everything, but this is before all that. This is like, just, it would be some, "Hey, you owe me $75, bro." I'm like, fuck, I like blocked them and shit. But she had sent me a fan letter, and she's like, "Hey, Wasting Talent's my favorite book." And I think just at that time, I was just, I don't know, I was going through a breakup. I was homeless. I just got all this money, but I had nothing to spend it on, like nothing meaningful. I didn't have a family. She had a kid, so I was like, fuck, Insta family. Yeah, like, I just want, I don't know. I was sick of not having normality. And I really think I thought that would bring that. But it just, man, it went south real quick. I mean, that's what happens when you marry someone you've only known a week. And I remember I had to get Molly for her, because the conversation with her event, she was like, "Yeah, I love LA." Actually, that's not even how does she talk? "You are such a drug addict." Oh my God, that voice. People think I'm joking, and then they will see footage of us fighting, and they're like, "Oh, that's spot on accurate." I'm like, "Yeah."
Bro, your impressions are fucking amazing, but that one is spot on, bro. It actually, I have a headache. It's like ringing in my ear, and it's
Oh
been
yeah,
5 years. You know what I mean?
so much wild shit happened with her.
She did not like me from the gate, bro. And I don't blame her. You know what I
Is
mean?
he
But
smoking heroin in our bathroom? I'm like, dude, you shot up with me 4 hours ago. What are you talking? That's when you smoke it, it gives you Alzheimer's. And I'm like, dude, you know what? Okay, cool. She was like that. Like, God. Anyway, um, I remember. So the conversation with her eventually progressed. Fuck, fly, I hate flies. And she was like, yeah, she's like, "Hey, next time I'm in LA, let's get a drink." I was like, "All right, cool." And she's like, "Or we could take ecstasy and roll in a motel." I was like, "Gross." All right. And then so I was like, "Okay, yeah, let's do that now." And then I like came up on the money shortly thereafter. I was like, "I'm going to fly you out." Like, I think she came out, she sees me driving an X5. Like, the only thing, I was such a fucking scumbag at that point in my life, but I had a nice car. That was the one thing that I had. And I'd have like a cracked cell phone, and like somehow I usually didn't even have a phone. That's how like shot out I was back then. But I had this nice car that just stunk. Like, there'd be like moldy hamburgers and shit in it. But
that shit was so grimy, bro.
but when she came, I cleaned it. And anyway, so she came out, and I think she saw me, and she really was like, "Oh, he must be a successful author." She didn't realize that I was a straight up junkie. Like, when we got married, I mean, we were coked out when we were at a bar at 10 in the morning, and this chick was like, "You guys are adorable. My husband officiates weddings. You should get married." We were like so coked out. We're like, "Oh yeah, yep." We like didn't want to back down, and then all of a sudden we're getting a marriage certificate. Then I'm in my slippers and a Dodgers hat, like all gout out on heroin, like, "Oh yeah, like I love you." And she didn't realize that I was on heroin at that point, so it became this like double life thing. And quickly she figured it out, and then in the middle of it she started doing it with me, and then it was just all bad. Like, at that point it just went to shit. I mean, it went to shit the first weekend that I mean, I don't know, it's not all her fault. Like, I'm a psycho fucking path too, but like, man, she's the worst one I've ever been with, for sure. Like in any long-term situation. What do you remember? I guess like the North Hollywood days.
Right. So you were like, okay, I'm a married man. Like I need to like get us a place. Right. So I think that's when you were either selling meth or solar power panels or both, but you were like working out of that office and you were like, yo, you need a job? And I'm like, yeah, all right.
With
And
Happy, hey, do you want to buy some solar or shit like that? Oh, all right, fuck you then. My boss would be like, hey, you gotta do something about this this essay you brought in there. You're making the
yo,
company look
that building was sketch, bro. Like that building and company was a front for some other shit for sure, bro.
yeah.
But then you got an apartment, dude, and that's when it really started going south, bro. That's like I came over and you showed me that footage where she was screaming at you and like there was broken glass all over the floor and fucking
Yeah, psychopath, man. I mean, she was one of those people. I've explained it a million times. I put this on my child. Never put hands on her. I put that on my mother who's dying right now. I never even shook her. Nothing even questionable. We would get in a fight. I'd be like, yeah, go suck dick for Tylenol 3s then, you fucking hooker whore. And she'd be like, open the front door. He's abusing me. I'd be like, well, this is a bust. I'm going to hide my gun because I'm on federal fucking probation. The cops cuffed me 8 times, maybe more. Probably more than that, but 8 that I can like remember. That's the number that sticks out. I would always be cuffed, and it was sad because she had a kid. CPS got involved, and then they would interview him, traumatize him further, and be like, "Has your stepdad hit your mom?" And he would always say, "No, because I never did, but she hit me all the time." If you've seen that picture of me, that's kind of one that I use a lot. I'm holding a rag, and it's just covered in blood. She threw a fork at me, and it like blood was pulsating out of my head. It looked like a horror movie. I was like, you hurt me so bad. It was like splintering out of my, so it looked like some horror movie shit. And, of course, like later that night, she's like on the phone with her mom. She's like, yeah, he abuses me to the point that I have to do stuff like that. You would too. You'd feel cornered. He's an abuser. Never. I put that on everything that's important to me. I never abused her. I mean, you saw it. I mean, she was that kind of person, right? Like, it just drama all the time. What was your first impression of her? Let's like go to that.
I thought she. I mean, clearly she was insane for marrying you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And she was marrying Damien. She was marrying a character that I constructed in my book.
Right.
The problem with that is when she got out here, she expected me to be him all the time. And then I was him all the time. And then she's like, I didn't expect that. And I'm like, the fuck? Like that's what she'd first tell me. She's like, oh my God, it's like I get to marry a character that I'm really fucking interested in. This is interesting. I'm gonna tell people I'm marrying a junkie, and then it just went to shit. So what about like a day in the life with her? Like what would happen when we would meet up? Like my memory back then spotty as fuck because of how much alcohol I was. Do you remember how much I was drinking back then? I was drinking.
You were drinking a lot. Yeah, dude, you know what? Same. I remember like really my first memory of her is when we went to that pad in Highland Park and she took acid. And then she stole the fucking Louis Vuitton purse that like belonged to the other chick.
Oh, this is what's funny about this, dude. I don't know. Did we cover this on the last video that we did together?
Yeah.
Did we?
A little bit, yeah. And then
fuck, let's fly, man.
Yeah, like she would want coke, and so you'd meet up with me to get coke, and I'd like slide you black on the low.
Oh yeah.
And then she caught on to it, So
yeah. She But to go back on that thing you just said, I don't remember what we had said about that last time, but what's really funny about that is one night we were on GHB. This is before I ever knew her, and these two girls were like, "Hey, you guys should come over to our place," but we didn't have a car. We were straight dope fiends. Like we had nothing. No, actually I had a car. Why couldn't we drive that night?
Because we were on GHB, so you parked it like at this park, and we walked like 5 miles to their crib.
That doesn't sound like me though. I are you sure? Like, was my car broken at the time?
No, we were just that fucked up, bro. Because this was right after, and we went to Skid Row to cop crack. And fucking,
okay. I did have my car.
You didn't want to get out of the car because you were on parole. So I went to get the crack. And when I came back, your car was surrounded by like 10 fucking cars, cop cars, you know?
Oh yeah, they had me up against the wall.
Yeah, so I was like, fuck that, and I hit the corner and I smoked all the crack. And then by the time I came back, like, I was like, hey, like, I'm his friend, and they fucking let you go because you had nothing on you. You know?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I remember that. Yeah.
So we drove back to Pasadena, and you were like just sketched to drive. So we left your car parked and then walked 5 miles to that bitch's house.
Gotcha. Yeah. At that point, I had a car. It was like the period after that when I got out after the second time in prison. I didn't have a car for that whole time when I first met Karina.
Yeah.
Okay. So there. But we walked like 5 miles to this girl's house on GHB. Like we could, 5 hours if you're not fucked up like that, it probably would have taken us an hour and a half to get there. But we were so wasted off this GHB. I remember we were like stumbling in the street. Anyway, we end up getting to her place, and I think she gave me a drink or like maybe like more alcohol. I remember being super fucked up there. And I just start creeping this chick out. I'm not a predatory dude ever with women, but I was so hammered that like everything was coming out wrong. I was like, hey, and she was like, can you get this guy away from me? He's really freaking me out. I was like, show me your tits. I was like just saying off the wall shit to her, just being a creep. And
do you remember she had cages of like, she had pet squirrels and possums in her living room? Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I was on one that night. I don't remember that, but that's funny. But okay, so
this was weird, dude.
and then when I got married, my wife went over there and like stole her like Louis Vuitton purse and all. Dude, it was just this. We went into that on the last video. We almost got killed by a bunch of Southsiders over there. Were those guys Southsiders actually, or were they just SA dudes?
SA dudes that like listen to Misfits and shit.
Oh, like those are even more dangerous. The mosh pit.
They were like Hessians or whatever.
Is that what they're called? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, like the fucking long greasy hair and shit. Yeah,
yeah, like the What's Up Rocker type dudes. Yeah, So then, around that time, so he was in this underground hip hop group called Speaker Creatures, and like I love your music, man, but I hate that album because at that time I like listened to it like my auxiliary cord thing like stopped working in my car. I think it was because I was getting water to shoot up at Burger King and I was like trying to like hold it and it like fell into the fucking hole, so I couldn't listen to my auxiliary cord anymore. I was pissed. The only thing I could use was the CD player, and I had your one CD, Speaker Creature CD, and that's the only music I had. The AM FM radio didn't even work. So I'd listen to his CD all day, every day. I'd go through dope sickness. Like I'd be like, fuck. And then I'd like start drumming to the beat a little bit. I'm like, oh, I hate this song. But like silence makes me think about reality, And dude, it was torturous, man. And so I can't even listen. It's on Spotify. You can listen to that stuff. That was the soundtrack to one of the most fucked up periods in my life because I was drinking 2/5 of whiskey a day at that point. Like no exaggeration. That's a lot of fucking whiskey. 2/5.
That's the worst music I've ever made, bro.
Oh, well, I'm
I
sorry.
was I was on so many drugs too,
You
but it's
were. I
okay.
can vouch for that. I mean, I'd go over to the studio, meth head shit, you know? There'd be like stolen refrigerators that are like missing the fucking door. And I'd be like, what is this? Your buddy would be like, I put it on offer up as is. $18. You know, and I'm like, what the, someone will want the motor. I'm like, damn, dude. And that guy, so I don't want to say the dude's name because he watches the show, but or my channel. I always call it the show. It's not a fucking show. But he watches it. But dude, he has this classic friend, and he had a side chick, right? This girl, will call her Brianna. Is that a real name? That's a real name, isn't it? That's
Well,
not
we'll just call her Bianca, bro.
Bianca. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was this girl, Bianca. So as my addiction got worse, as what tends to happen with me is like, and like, listen, I will say this: as dirtbag as I am, homeless, the amount of time I've done, rehabs, sober livings, I'm a resourceful ass drug addict. Like I'm one of those dudes that always has drugs. I always make sure that like my addiction is like fed. Like I never understood guys who are like, yeah, ugh, no, I'm sick. I'm just, I'm hoping my luck changes. I'm out there hustling, like making sure to keep the fucking party going. I've always been like that. But uh so but by this point, but my hustle starts getting a little darker, right? Like I started getting grimy. And so I meet this old Mexican dude. He probably, like, this guy literally looks like he's in the Mexican mafia, and he's hanging out with his friend who we'll call Buddy, right? And Buddy is just this straight up scumbag, and I say that with the utmost respect to you, Buddy, because I'm a dirtbag too. But this guy's like even scrimier than me for sure. Like this guy's hardcore, always in prison, always. He just got a text message from him. We were on the phone before this, and his friend was like, he's like, hey dog, I just got my ass beat. This girl that I'm fucking's husband got us fucking in a car, and he broke the windshield with a mag light, and he like smashed my head. He's like, dude, I almost died. And he sent pictures. He was like relaying me the pictures. I was like, oh my god, this guy, he always has stolen goods. He's like a fence. This dude's just such a scumbag. I would love to have you on my show, man. There I go, calling it a show again. But
Oh my God.
that guy had introduced me to this old Hispanic dude that I was talking about. And it was like he had introduced me to him, and then there was this other girl that we'll call Bianca, and they were just grimy, I mean, we're all IV drug users, and they would come over, and this old Mexican dude was like, hey, do you have any acid? I was like, dude, I have some in my freezer right now. I didn't have any acid. And I went and I got a breath drop vial, which I've done this dirtbag move so many times in my life, so fake vials of acid. I was like, I'll give it to you for $400, 100 hits of liquid, but it was just water, right? Or I think I put vodka in it. I was like, you gotta keep it in the freezer, bro. This is super fragile, and
Hell.
they were like, okay, and like I put it in the cellophane, that I'd burn and like make it look very druggish. So I asked your friend, I asked Buddy, I was like, hey, this old Mexican dude, I'm gonna burn him. And and your friend's just like, he's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. I was like, isn't that your homeboy though? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't care though. Every man for himself. So I ended up burning this. This dude knew where I lived. This is how much of a junkie I'm such a junkie. He knew where I lived. I didn't even care. I was in my head. I was like, because you know how you get when you're strung out. I'm like, I'll just fight that fucker if he ever comes by, like fuck it. Like oh, dude, it's because you can buy, it's bunk. Oh, dude, I'm mad. I'm gonna, I got you. I got you, bro. And then, you just never, you try to spin him forever. But so I burned this dude for this vial, and the girl, so Buddy, his friend, had this side bitch. I know that's not the PC way to say it, but his side chick. Okay, that's a nicer way. He had a side chick named Bianca, and she was this like little like, you know, Tasmanian Asian girl that was always on meth.
She was cute though, bro.
Yeah. So I told the Mexican guy, I was like, look, have the girl deliver the goods, you know, like bring the money, have her bring me a 3-pack of black. Throw some of that queer juice in too, bro. I don't even care right now, you know. And so she ends up bringing me 3 grams of heroin, gram of meth, and whatever the difference was in cash. It was like $80 or something, whatever the fuck it was. So she's over. Now my ex-wife, you are such a that girl is in Denver cheating on me. Coincidentally, we cheat on each other all the time. I know she was. She's like, what? I was just getting a ride home from a dude I met on Tinder. It's way cheaper than Uber. I'm like, yeah, that's believable. Okay. She was a whore. But whatever, you know. I don't hate a lot of people. I hate her. And so she was out of town in Denver. This girl comes over and she's like, do you want to shoot meth? And I was on parole at the time. At the time, I had a full-blown pass to shoot heroin because I'd cut my foot open and like gone to the doctor, and I was like, my foot, I cut it. And they're like, you did that. That's a self-inflicted wound. I'm like, oh, and then I got on my knees. I was like, I'll go to prison if you don't give me Vicodin. So they did. And once I had that, it's like having a pass to shoot heroin. So I was like going into drug testing super confident all the time. Anyway, meth wasn't something I could do. But she's like, do you want to do math? And I knew she was coming over, and that's why I got it. And my wife was out of town. So we do it. Let's try to be mature about this. We do our thing, right? And dude, my neighbor DMs my wife in Denver, and he's like, hey, Ryan has an Asian girl in bed with him right now. That's how I imagine he looked. And so my girl called me. She's like, is there an Asian girl in your bed right now? And I was like, I looked over and there was. I was like, fuck. I didn't even like know that had happened. Anyway, it got me. I don't know. This just reminded me of that. I'm so sorry for going off. So do you remember that situation?
I do.
Remember? You do?
I do.
Tell me some of the craziest memories that you have with me during the Doom marriage series, because that's a pretty interesting time period. I mean, I tried to commit suicide. I was like, I was a wreck. My mental health shit was like really bad then. And I was really bad on alcohol and heroin. So it's burning the wicks at both ends. Like I was going hard as fuck back then. And, you know, it sucked. I was miserable.
Dude, I was homeless at the time because like the dude in Highland Park, I fucking robbed him and like jacked him for his gold chain.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And he made wax, right?
He made wax. Yeah, I stole some wax from him too, like a pound. And so I was like 86 from there. And so I crashed at your apartment like a few nights. Like you let me stay there and shit. And
vaguely remember this.
Like so like her kid's like little mat, which was his bed, was like by the front window, and she's like, you can sleep on my son's mat. So I'm on like this little fucking mat, my fucking legs hanging off the shit, and she'd make the kid sleep like in the corner on the floor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
horrible mom, dude.
Yeah, and I was on lots of acid, and
we did a lot.
You would like leave to go to your job at the solar panel place, and then you got me a job there, and I got fired, I think, on my second day or something.
I think I still made you checks though, didn't I, for a little bit? No,
you did, bro. Yeah, you were like, yeah, man, and and so then for like in my case, like I was like living with my girl at her mom's in Venice, and I burned that spot because she had all these surveillance cameras.
Oh my! I remember that. Didn't you get jumped in Venice or something?
Oh yeah, by a bunch of Crips. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What? Tell us that story. I remember that was that period. I remember he lived. You're like, yo, you can't come in. Like there's surveillance cameras. Like dude, it's waist high, bro. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean? You know? And I was like, all right, I'm not
dude,
gonna
like
come in.
her mom was a makeup artist for movies, so like she'd be out of town for months at a time. So she had surveillance cameras like in the pad, bro. And I was like on meth and fucking acid, and just my behavior was so like bizarre and erratic and shit. So she kicked me out. So that's when I was like staying with you a few nights, and then I was only around for like a few weeks, bro. And then I moved to Humboldt County because I had nowhere to go. And like my boy got me a job like on his land up there growing. So then like like you'd call me and check in with me, and it was just always drama with her and shit. And you'd tell me some crazy shit, and it was just mind boggling.
Oh my God.
And then so the rest of the doomed
story.
marriage was like, I wasn't really there for it, bro. Like you'd call me to check
When did
in
you
with
go
me
to
and shit.
Humboldt?
Like April 2017.
16? No, because I went to prison January 5th of 17.
So it was January, February, March. Okay, yeah, because I got out of jail January 2016. So I went to Humboldt like June 2016.
Yeah, I remember when you were up there because I'd always be trying to buy weed. Like, I remember.
Right. The failed marriage was like February 2016 through like the summer.
Oh yeah, February. You're right.
You know what I mean?
It was around February.
Because we got you and I got girlfriends at the same time. Literally, like I got a girlfriend, and then you flew her out, and then so we both got girlfriends within a week. You know?
Yeah, that's way cooler than just us hanging out. It was like, kind of made shit better. Not really, actually. I really regret. Dude, I really don't regret relationships. Like I tend to try to look at things more positively now that I'm older. Like I look at people and I'm like, all right, like, you know, it wasn't all bad. Like, and I appreciate the moments that I got to share with someone. It's like cool to get to know someone intimately for everyone, but that fucking bitch, I'm not even one goddamn second of that shit was good. It was awful. Like,
I think I'd come back from Humboldt to visit during the Doom marriage too. Like, do you remember when? And I had a bunch of PCP and I shit my pants in my car. Were you with me?
No.
Yeah, that was crazy. I literally like, and I was sagging so much, like I got shit like on the seats, bro. And there was like a forever smudge, like fucking stain on it, bro. And then the valet guy broke my window, and I was like, because I stole a bag of Skittles from the fucking 76. You weren't there. I thought you were with me in the car, bro.
Dude, you know that the problem is that period I was drinking. Like, my memory is fucking on point, except the one time, like the one period where it's really difficult for me to remember stuff is the one you're talking about, because I was drinking tough. And so like people tell me crazy shit that happened back then, and they're like people that watch the story videos and like, why don't you ever go into all this shit? And like I'm like, damn, I forgot that even happened. And it is like a bunch of crazy shit happened. I'm trying to think of like, okay, so I remember, I think the last time I saw you before I went to prison was that time I was on acid.
And you were in Santa Barbara.
I was in SB. Yeah.
And you slept, like me and my girl spent the night, and you said it was cool if we spent the night, but your girl slept on the bed with you and I slept on the floor.
No, I didn't have a girl. I slept with
my girl slept with you in your bed, and I slept on the floor.
Yeah, I know, because
you were like, you can crash here, bro, but under one condition, dude. Like, you sleep on the floor, and like she can sleep with me, you know.
God, makes me sound like such a piece of shit I am.
And then you kicked us out at 3 and you kicked us out at 2:30 in the morning because you had to go to work.
Yeah, I remember. You guys came in and I was frying. I was like, oh, I don't even remember how. Oh yeah, some girl, some chick I met on Plenty of Fish. Like, remember that whole thing? And she's like some boring girl. And then, but like at the end of the date, she's like, I have Molly, acid, and coke. And I was like, oh my God. And then we went home. And then my dad caught her in my room, and he was like, Ryan, this is getting to be really out of control. I was like, the drugs? He's like, the girls. I was like, what? That's the last thing you should be tripping on. But she ended up giving me these gel tabs. And I remember I was on one when you guys came. I think I'd already been tripping. I think I'd already peaked and stuff, though. I don't.
We picked you up at the bar and you just got in a fight.
Oh, I got in a fight that night on acid. I remember that. Yeah, this fucking idiot, dude. Some like guy was like, do you want to see a magic trick? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm so like, get away from me, because I was tripping, you know. And he's like, look, and like some like napkin dove came out of his hands, and I was like, what the fuck? And I just took off on this dude. And yeah, the bouncers like ended up like roughing me up a little bit, and then you guys came into town, and I was like, I'm gonna ask up and fight and help. Get me home. And you guys got me. You guys got me home. That was such a fucking crazy period too.
Bro, I don't know what either of us would have done if we didn't have each other, bro. Like we literally like kept each other alive, bro.
Yeah, yep. Especially, you know, he's been sober 3 years. When I relapsed in 15, we were talking about this earlier on the phone. I've never been able to get back to that version of me, and I wish I could, because it was a way better version of me. You know, like nowadays I smoke bud, which I like, and I take kratom. Honestly, I'm a good father. I provide, got a great relationship with my family, with my girl. I just got engaged. My career's doing well. Shit's cool. I don't trip on that not being sober or not. It's interesting how people try to judge you in recovery. That's so fucking dangerous. It's like, dude, like if you know what kind of addict I am, you would not be tripping on me smoking weed. Well, I know it'll lead to other stuff. No, shut up. It's working for me.
But shut up. There's multiple
you know?
There's multiple paths to recovery, and you're killing it right now, bro.
Thank you. And yeah, and look, dude, I can admit abstinence is for sure the best way to go. Best I was in my life, like as far as like how I felt, was when I was completely sober. I don't know if this last term fucked me up to the point where like, I know I need medication to some degree, and doctors tell me to smoke pot. They're like, look, this is what we use for PTSD. It's effective. I don't even like weed. Like I smoke at night. I have sex. Sometimes I beat off when I'm stoned, and I'll like giggle. Like, and then I don't know. It's never agreed with me. Let's just put, like, I do not enjoy it. I hate it socially. I went to this like really cool party like a couple weeks ago, and some guy's like, do you want to smoke a J? And I was like, yeah. And I did, and I regretted it. I was in my head. Yeah. I gotta go take a shit. Just stay here and like I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be embarrassing if that was real right then? But what I was gonna say about shitting is, at this party I got stoned and I had to take a shit, and like I didn't know these people. People were having the time of their life. People were like hula hooping and shit. I didn't want to be that guy that was like, hey, I gotta go number 2 right now, you know? And being stoned like that in a social setting and having to shit is like it's like a nightmare. Just ugh. But yeah, eventually I did. Anyway, sorry to go off on that rant, but let's see. When I was having my breakdown, what happened then? I don't even remember where you were at that point.
So I was visiting again in LA from Humboldt, and I didn't see you. We were supposed to meet up, but you were like busy. But you were calling me, checking in, and like super paranoid about shit. And you were telling me about this like event you were gonna throw, and fucking I remember like clearly, bro. I was walking like on Vermont Avenue in Koreatown, like fucking with this tranny and shit, and fucking trying to score meth and shit, and
with the tranny trying to score meth.
Yeah,
That's dude. Weird.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I saw him from a distance, and I was like, "Damn!" And then when he got closer, I was like, "We'll see how the night goes," you know.
But with meth, it's whatever.
Yeah, bro. But yeah, you were having a breakdown, bro. Like Pete saying people were after you or whatever, and that was the last time I talked to you till you You got busted shortly after that, and then I didn't talk to you again until you got out.
Thanks for writing me, man. Appreciate you. No, I know you're going through your own shit. I'm just kidding. I'm not that kind of guy that holds that against people. Just certain people. If like I need an excuse, not no, dude, you didn't write me in prison. Nah, we're not cool now. No, and I know you actually helped me more than most people when I was in more recent times. Not, and it's been a couple years now, but I went through when my friend Paul died. I was going through horrible heroin addiction, and I hated it because I had a kid at that point, and that makes things so much worse. And people will be like, oh, you're selfish and you're a piece of shit if you're choosing to use when you have a kid. And it's honestly not been a choice for me. It's not something that I consciously do. I'm like, yeah, I feel like getting high. It's just this very weird, perfect storm that like leads up to that. And then once you're on it, the guilt and shame just perpetuates the fucking run, and you get suffocated because you feel so bad because you're deep down, you want to get clean so bad because you know that you're fucking up, and like I know my kid will grow up without a dad if like I'm just the kind of guy that's gonna die if I use. I mean, it's inevitable. I've been Narcaned 8 times in my life. That's not even including the times where like people shoved ice cubes up my ass. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I'm not even ODing. Even all I did was smoke weed tonight. They're like, oh, sorry, man, you're breathing weird. But there's like all the home remedies, whatever. But
a meth shard up the booty hole works fucking fantastic too.
Ugh, sounds so awful. But during that time, yeah, man, you really fucking helped me out. It put me in detox. You and Nick, and fucking, yeah, I'd be like at Airbnbs with Nick watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and you guys would like babysit me and like nurture me back to life, and that's what's up, man. I fucking appreciate that. The last part of this, and I know like I'm sorry that I've talked so much. We weren't even gonna do an interview, but we were on the phone anyway, and I'm like, let's record it, because I'm really trying to be more on top of content right now. So let's talk about you getting clean, your music, and kind of like do the last 20 minutes like that. I really do have to pee though, which fucking sucks. Should I just do it in a cup, like while I'm making eye contact?
Hey, bro, I know you have an empty Gatorade bottle sitting on your desk right now.
No, because then Karina's like, yeah, I'm such a dirtbag. I found shit in a Gatorade bottle, like there was a period where my toilet was broken down here, and I shit in a bag, and like I was like pissed in a bunch of bottles, and Karina was like, oh my God, I wish people knew how you really were. They'd hate you. They'd unsubscribe if they saw this. I was like, no, they know, babe. Then it's fuck. They know everything. I'm gonna go pee real quick. Why don't you? Seriously, why don't you start? If you right now were speaking at a meeting and you wanted to tell your story about how you got clean, I already know it. Start it. I'm gonna go pee, and then I'll jump right back into it. I gotta pee bad. I have no bladder control. I'll be right back.
For sure, bro. Yeah. So basically, the last month of my using, I had moved back from Humboldt County with that girl, and she just had an abortion. I had got her pregnant, and like clearly, we couldn't fucking raise a kid. I was strung out. Like she couldn't do it on her own. And she told me if she got pregnant again, we were gonna keep it. So she was like begging me to go to detox and shit, and I'd go to detox for 5 days, get out, relapse, and just saw I couldn't get my shit together, and left. Got the second abortion. Left. That's the last time I talked to her. So I'm like living in my car in Hollywood, shooting fentanyl, heroin, black tar wasn't even getting me high anymore. I had a 3 gram a day fentanyl habit. I was smoking and shooting it, and then got suicidal. I was suicidal, and Music Cares Foundation, shout out to them, gave me a scholarship to treatment, and You know, it was like the scariest day of my life when I got to detox, but it was also like a relief that I felt because I was finally done after, 18 years of the shit, And then, so it really hasn't been hard for me to stay clean this whole time because I'd already made the conscious decision in my head. I was fucking done,
He
I was
shot
tired.
me. He shot me up with heroin. He hit my neck. I was so dope sick one morning when I was using, and he came over taking me to detox, and I was like, I'm not trying to trigger you, but can you hit my neck, please? And he did like that. In when I got clean, it was the same thing. I made a conscious decision, stop. I got more in touch with the higher power, and I had a cellie that was doing heroin in prison, and I'd have to hit him all the time, because it's really hard to use the binkies. But anyway, I can relate to that, and I know your story anyway. I'm sorry I had to go pee. I'm a bitch, but
Yeah, people like with that, people ask me all the time. I'm a fucking rapper, bro. I'm around tons of shit. Fucking lean, fucking yay. Like, it doesn't phase me. People are like, how can you be around that shit? And it's like, dude, like, I feel good sober. I
yeah,
don't need to do that shit anymore. You know what I mean? So, and like the success I've built just in the almost 3 years I've been sober with my career and everything is like, why the fuck would I want to go back to that shit? You know what I mean?
yeah, no, yeah. It's one thing I never liked about recovery is that there's so many. I don't want to say fake drug addicts because it's not like, oh, I've, been to prison 3 times and I've done this and that. Like I'm a worse drug addict than you. I don't like when because you can't really measure it in that way. But when I go to meetings, I'd find a lot of people that they'd describe their problem and I'd act like I cared and was supportive, but deep down I was like, what a punk ass bitch that guy. I can't believe. Of course you got sober, dude. You got hungover 7 times. I mean, you didn't deal with half the shit I did. And I had this like superiority complex where I was like, I'm a worse junkie. Nobody. And I've used with you. And yeah, he's a bottom of the barrel, grimy, fucking junkie fuckwad waste of life like me when I use. That's where he's a gutter creature straight. I mean, I love you, bro, but I'm just saying you were a fucking piece of shit junkie and
Yeah,
did
it's like
cheap shit
people like
things.
you and me, people like you and me literally have to destroy our lives over and over and over again to like get it through our thick ass skull that we need to fucking make a real change, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and thank God that happened to me because that's like a memory that will forever stick in my mind, like how bad I felt and how bad shit was.
Yeah, man.
You
And
know?
and yeah, and he's the real deal. He goes to meetings religiously and he's involved with the program and he's in a good that was one of the best parts of about getting sober for me. Being around people that were sober, that was a nice change of pace. Nowadays I'm around a lot of blow all the time. That sucks. But when I was like in the program and I hung out with AA people, I was never around that. And then on top of that, I helped get a lot of people clean because they knew how bad of a drug addict I was. I was like the kind of guy where like if I get clean, it inspires other people to get clean because they know that I'm the real deal. Like they know that I'm like a severe fucking drug addict, and he's the same way. Um, what I was gonna say though is do you remember that time recently, in more recent times? Not too recently. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. I mean, this
When
is
I brought you to the meeting,
yeah, like a couple of years ago. But what happened on that one?
you were on GHB, and I brought you to a meeting, and there were like 200 people there, with the podium and the speakers at the podium, and like she's like telling her story. It's completely quiet. It's just her talking, and you wake up from a deep sleep like, did I leave the sprinklers on? I was like, shh, bro. Like
Yeah,
she's sharing, and you're
it's
like,
one. Yeah,
where am I?
one of those things where you come out of a nod and you're like, you just start saying you're like, fuck. I don't have a cover on this Ferrari that I don't even own, but I'm thinking about it. And everybody in there was like butthurt about it. I don't like that part of recovery. Like, oh, I've been clean a month. fuck your problems, bro. You're a loser. You know,
Hey,
it's like,
you doing that actually helped me because I was kind of into the speaker chick, and fucking we started hanging out later because I was like, hey, you remember my boy Ryan? She's like, the one that was on GHB at the meeting that interrupted me. I'm like, yeah, and she's like, yeah, how is he? I'm like, he's good. Let's hang out, you know? And then we
that's
started
right.
kicking it. And shit.
Cool. Hell yeah. Yeah. But like, you know, he would take me to detox more than once, and then he took me to meetings, and you know, and I had, thank God I have a couple friends that are like, you know, like that. Like when I fall, they help pick me back up and stuff. And right now I might even start going to meetings again because my mom's sick, and I just, not even because I feel there's nothing to do with using, it's just spiritual growth, because I need that right now, because lately I have been feeling like getting high, you know, it's like creeping up. And like the last run I went on was you know, I told the doctor, or the dentist, I said explicitly, do not give me painkillers. I'm a fucking drug addict. I will suck someone's dick. I've never done it, but I could. I'm that bad of a drug addict. Do not give me any painkillers. And so I get home, my computer's gonna die, and I have the microphone thing. It's on 5%. So hold up. Anyway, I ended up leaving the dentist place, and I went to go get my prescriptions. I told him not to give me opiates. I get home, fucking Percocets in there, 40 of them. And of course I was like, okay, I'll just take 10 just to make sure it's real. And I took him, and like within 2 days I was shooting up. Thank God that Karina has been through heroin addiction with me enough to recognize the signs, to, you know, she'd see like the cottons like on my desk and shit. And she was not mad. And this is an important point. This is why I'm bringing this up. It was so important that she was not angry at me, that she was sad, because it made me feel bad. Drug addicts are notorious for spinning things and flipping things in their mind. Oh, you're going to be mad at me? Okay, fuck you. I'm going to go get high then, just out of spite for you to fuck you. And it keeps that run going. So my advice to anyone, if you have somebody that's struggling with drug addiction, try the empathy, love, compassion round. And people go like, fuck that. No, tough love. Yeah, okay. Say that when, you know, all your friends start dying and going to prison and shit, and you wish you could do things differently. You always want to take the sad, supportive approach than the angry. Anger is the fuel that keeps drug addiction thriving. It keeps it raging like a fire. So my computer's on 5%. What are you doing with your music right now? This thing could cut out. I'm really worried
I
about that.
just I just
I don't know if
signed
I'll
I just
save
signed it. I just signed a deal with Sony Orchard.
Sony. Yep,
So
it's
I
amazing,
got
man.
distribution
Congrats.
with them now. I got my own label under them called Angelino Records. I have a new EP that just dropped called the Alvarado Diaries,
That's
featuring
awesome. I've listened to it a bunch of times. Yeah,
my man Lush One, Body Bag Ben. Um,
I bought that album, but is it available on Spotify?
it's available everywhere.
Okay, I
I just
bought it when
dropped
it first
two.
came.
Yeah, you did. You always support me with that shit. And I dropped 2 videos of songs from the album on my YouTube channel. My channel's Riggy Marz Official, RIGGYMARZ. Peep that shit.
Yeah, definitely give it. I'll put the links to your music, which I love. I've actually been featured in a couple songs, like talking about snitches and stuff. I was like, do I sound cool when I say shit like this? And you were like, yup. And I was like, all right, produce it then. And then it came out. But anyway, I will leave all the pinned comments to his. So to give him a subscribe on YouTube, go follow him on Spotify, follow him on Instagram, do all those things. He deserves it, and he's definitely somebody that has looked out for me quite a bit in my time. Only when he was sober. When he was a drug addict, he didn't really look out that much. But when he was when he got sober, he was awesome to me, and he saved my life. Honestly, I'd probably be dead if you hadn't taken me into detox and you hadn't helped me, and you hadn't helped nurture me back, you know, to a place where I'm functioning again. Like I feel good. I'm dieting. I'm working out. I'm taking my health seriously again. And a lot of that has to do with you helping me when I fell. You know, I've been good now for, man, it's been a long time, but I wouldn't have been able to do that without you. So please support him. I like his music. I listen to it all the time. It's on my playlist. It's in my rotation. I support my friends, but thankfully I actually like the music that my friends do. So I literally listen to it. I'm going to put one of his songs in my documentary. And yeah, thanks for coming on. I want to cut it because I don't want the computer to die and then it not save it, because that kind of shit happens to me all the time. And then I tell people on Patreon, they're like, I don't believe him. I mean, he says shit like this every day, but it really happens all the time. So anyway, thank you so much for coming on. How long were we recording, do you think? An hour?
Shit, dude. Hour and a half, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shit. All right, that's cool. Longer is better. All right, guys. Anything else?
Unless you got a bomb personality.
Unless you have a bomb personality. You've been paying attention. Thank you. That is Ryan Leone original. Thank you, bro, for being my friend, and thanks for coming on my show. All right,
Thank you, man.
Time. Yeah. Follow him. Check him out. It's in the pinned comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out patreon.com/Ryan Leone. I'm going to put this picture of you on Patreon right now. It's so classic. I might make it to the cover for this, maybe. But come check everything out. Thanks, brother. I'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you soon. Yeah, I'm going to interview you for my doc. So we'll make that happen the next couple weeks. We got it. We're at the finish line. So we're have
there,
to
baby. We're there, baby.
All right, guys. Palabra.